Hello and welcome to a new video from Game Informer. I'm Ben Hanson, joined by Ben Reeves.
Hello.
Dan Tack.
Good evening.
Matt Miller.
Hi there.
And Andrew Reiner.
What's up?
As everybody knows, we're here to completely spoil Avengers Endgame.
Yes.
And again, and with all of our spoiler discussions, we look into the camera and say, hey, everybody, if you haven't seen Endgame,
Get out of here.
get out of here.
Yeah,
we don't
seriously.
want you. Honestly,
Yeah.
this is a movie I don't think you want spoiled for, even though Leo demanded that his friend spoil it for him because he's a monster in the booth.
Oh, that's strange. That's so Leo.
So much of the thrill of this movie was seeing it with a crowd. Like, I would recommend seeing it at the most packed theater you can. It's
Yes.
going to be like trailing enthusiasm now, but I saw it on Sunday and the theater was still stoked. I can't imagine like that Thursday night crowd. Did you see it Thursday night, Miller?
I did.
And were they losing their minds?
Yeah.
Was it fun?
It was fun. There are scenes that were clearly, just designed for that. And
I think of
I'm
one in
sure we'll
particular,
talk about
but
it.
yes.
Yeah, there's
I'm
definitely
going to
one.
go out on a limb and say, crazy prediction. I think this movie's going to make some money.
I think it's already
It already has.
Yeah, it's absolutely absurd. I mean, okay, so just broad things out of the way. I will say, I think this is the greatest grand finale to anything I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I was trying to think of like what would I even compare it to? It was
Nothing.
I was trying to think like maybe Mass Effect 3 is like this culmination of something, but this is far and away probably the biggest like conclusion to anything, right?
Yeah.
I think Sopranos ending is better. I think a lot of,
But it doesn't feel... Okay, Sopranos ending might be like interesting, but in terms of just a finale and just
Okay.
a fan service ass
Yes,
finale,
it
I don't
is.
think anything could top it.
it did an excellent job of being able to tie in everything from all those movies into one. I can give it credit for that.
Yes.
I don't know if it's as strong as a movie on its own as some of the other movies like Infinity War.
Right out of the
personally.
gate with that, huh?
Well, let's get it out of the way.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I think I like Infinity War more. I've only seen this movie once,
We
but...
have more of a defined threat that they're going against. This is kind of trying to undo things for a lot of it, right? So
Yeah.
it's not as immediate in that. It's like, well, how are they going to solve this puzzle?
Well, what did you think about it overall, Reiner?
I liked it a lot. And, as a comic reader, I come from reading these my whole life and reading Infinity Gauntlet. So a lot of it is just kind of retracing a lot of those steps. They do different things. They have conclusions, but it hit a lot of the same notes as the comic. So it wasn't so surprising. But I did like kind of their farewells to certain characters. I thought that was very good.
Yeah.
I would say I like Infinity Gauntlet more as a story. The comic.
The comic. Oh,
I know
okay.
people hate that when you're like, oh, the source material is way better, but they had more pieces to play with, more characters. They had, I think it was more violent and shocking at the time, especially like if you go back to the 80s and this story comes out of nowhere and your character's getting killed off. So I think the stakes were bigger, the scale was bigger. But I liked what they did to kind of narrow it. And like I said, how they concluded certain stories was very poetic. And I was tearing up in the theater.
Oh my God. Okay, we should tease this. So talking about comparisons to comics,
Yeah.
I'm trying to predict the storyline. We have here, if you can see it, sealed envelopes from a handful of Game Informer editors that we wrote down weeks ago, maybe like a month ago or so, trying to predict, all right, came from the podcast conversation where you're like, oh, I know what's going to happen in Endgame. I said, seal that envelope.
Well before any spoilers or anything. Like this is a ways out.
Well, to be fair, there was like a set photo leak that I knew a little bit about. So I knew about the time travel thing, right? So
What?
I have a feeling that I wrote that down. Although I sealed this envelope and then a week later, I was like, oh, okay. I said, I need to open it back up or like make a new one just to predict. I swear to
The
God.
keeper of the envelope.
Just keep an envelope. I
This
did.
is going to be dead on.
I
Watch
did it.
this.
I did. But I said to myself, like, oh my God, I need to predict that Ant-Man's going to make a Back to the Future joke. I knew that in my heart of hearts.
come
and now,
on.
when it
I
happened-
love that that's your big prediction.
Yeah, but then when that happened in the movie, I was like, damn it, it was right there. I should have opened that envelope and resealed it. God damn it. Anyways, Reeves, what did you think of the movie?
Oh, I loved it. It's I'm kind of with some of you guys. I think Infinity War maybe is more fun. This for me was just a very powerful movie for me. I just felt like somebody reached in my chest and gave it a little squeeze.
I was sitting
In a
next to you.
good
That was
way.
actually me.
Yeah. There were a lot of like sniffles in the theater, and like it was
yeah,
more
big time,
emotional than I thought it was going to be. Even like from the beginning, there's a scene where just Rocket sits down and he puts his hand like in her other hand. You know what I'm talking about? Like right at the beginning.
Nebula? Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
with Nebula. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I was like,
What-
that kind of got me a little bit.
Yes, it's the tiny little moments. It's the very beginning, like the opening scene, which I love that it's just like, bam, you're with Hawkeye out of the gate. But just that little moment where his family disappears, and just the little detail that killed me is when he like whistles for his boys. Like just like that they have this established language for how
Yeah.
they call each other and stuff. Like that tiny detail already choked me up. I was like, what a scene. That's such an awesome way to start it.
Yeah.
And then it gets bizarre because then the end of that scene, I forget what the song is, but a very Guardians of the Galaxy song starts building. And I love like all the editing transitions where there's like this music will start building and then bam, you're into the next scene, which is in space. So of course it has to have
And
70s music.
I love too that just as it progresses, it feels like, oh, Tony's back really quick. They're kind of wrapping things up quick. And then it's like off to the world where Thanos is. Oh, it's a revenge film is what I thought. And then half an hour in, he's dead. And I'm like, I don't know what to expect now. Like it is like, I loved that scene.
Yes, that's the craziest thing to me is throughout this entire movie, it was a series of, I have no idea what could come next. I really feel like it could be anything. And then something happens and it's like, oh, of course. Captain America gets Mjolnir. It's like, of course. Like that scene started with that fight going on. And I'm like, what is Captain America going to do here? Like Thor has 2 weapons. He's going to whip a shield at Thanos again. He has nothing. It's like, of course. It's all those little things where the most likely thing happened.
I
but
wouldn't
just
say
couldn't
that's a
have
little
predicted
thing. I mean, I think that was the highlight of the entire film, actually.
Really?
For at least in my theater.
Oh, for
and I'm
the
not going to
cheers.
lie, that was a really. You knew it was going to happen, right? But
Did
at the same
you?
time, there was it was
No.
foreshadowed. Not.
Well, in Age of Ultron,
Open his
bit.
envelope. Open his envelope.
I don't have one. I wish I did
It
have one.
says, I'm not going to
interesting.
see the movie.
I
That's
wish
all.
I did have one. But
There
no,
was-
I think that was probably the most hype moment of the entire movie.
I think
I got chills.
I teared up and I didn't expect this and I felt like a real jerk in the grand finale when the portals open and everybody came through. I'm like, why is this making me emotional? I need to go back and listen to the music. 'Cause like, is that the
They
secret?
do it that way, and it got me
Right.
like that whole like the last 15% of the movie I was choking up the whole time.
Yeah.
And I couldn't understand why. I'm like,
That's it. Yes.
It was that and the line on your left. Like that subtle callback.
Wait, I missed that. Falcon said
Is
that?
Falcon said on
Of
your left.
course. Oh
and it was
my
like,
God.
oh, it was like, that was like, I was like, oh my gosh, why is that? That's starting to
Cap
get me.
running, and was that Winter Soldier?
In Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Like it was an amazing call. There's so many amazing callbacks. Even just the I am Iron Man at
Well,
the end, like that's still rocking.
That's
me.
a great example. I didn't see that coming. 'Cause I am. And I was like, what's it going to be? What's it going to be? Of course it's Iron Man. Like it has to be Iron Man. And it's just a beautiful way to end it.
So it
And
wasn't
so
the
the
end. We
movie's
had a Lord of the Rings trilogy ending where it just kept going on and on and on, which was okay. I didn't actually mind that.
I don't think it was as long as Lord of the Rings.
No, it's, but I'm using that as an example.
I mean,
like, you
or
get the
boring.
clear resolution, and then there's a lot after
Yeah,
that.
no,
Yeah.
there is.
Yeah, it seems you talk about like the callbacks and just the amount of fan service. The entire movie, I was walking to work this morning and thinking about it. It's like, it seems like Infinity War is like the great mashup of characters, and that was like the real thrill. And now with Endgame, it's like it is the mashup of literally the Marvel movies. Like having all these things bleed together, having an extended portion of the movie devoted to Thor: The Dark World, like that's so wild.
Yeah.
And then like having a scene from Thor: The Dark World where then the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy with Come and Get Your Love starts like building underneath the scene from Thor: The Dark World. It's like, that's it. It's just like remixing all these movies together in the most fun way. And by the way, it's just Back to the Future, which is a great format for
Which
a movie.
is a great movie.
It's a fun
So-
structure.
So that I got to tell you, if there's one thing I don't like in sci-fi and fantasy movies, it's time travel, and it doesn't matter how good you do it because it's always a mess. It's always a mess.
Of course.
And I don't think this is no exception. For as far as time travel goes, I think this is still up there for stuff that I like, and I can forgive it. But at the same time, I just wish they could have done it another way.
I think
I do. I just really do.
It was the only way, Dan.
Even where I'm willing to give it a pass, like in some crazy comic book sci-fi superhero movie, it just doesn't sit right, because then you can just do anything. It opens the door where nobody ever has to die ever, and it's just like,
You're saying
I get
in
it.
future movies?
Yeah, you can do anything now. Like the door's open for any timeline, any rules. No, there are no rules.
But was it fun?
Yeah, I told,
Shut up!
I mean, no, you can like something and whoa.
I think that the things that you can take issue with in this movie, whether it's the time travel stuff, like certainly there's lots of people who complain about the implications of like how Captain America shows back up.
I
at the
wanna talk
end,
about
and
that,
like
yeah.
that's weird. And it's true that time travel does make things a mess, right? Ultimately here, I think the idea that everything is working towards an emotional fulfillment and speaking to these sort of larger than life characters communicating something about like actually speaking to something about the human condition is pretty awesome, right? And I think when you have like insane speculative fiction concepts like time travel, you use them as a way to they're like vehicles to get you to those places, right? To be able to talk about what does it mean to be a hero? What is sacrifice? How do people deal with loss? What is it? You know, there's a lot
it's
of
not time travel for the sake of time,
right? I think you can cover all those topics without creating time rifts.
I don't think I'd actually argue that in this movie, the best way that they could have covered the things that they did is through time travel.
I would argue that all those concepts you're talking about, like heroic sacrifice, are better when there's stakes where the character can't come back through time travel.
Right, but in this instance, you've got things like, for instance, the scene between Tony and his dad, or Thor and his mom, who that's the miracle of this movie, right? And the miracle of the broader 10-year cycle of 22 films, right? Is that it feels like with this film, there's something for people who are fans of this stuff. There's something that speaks to us that is meaningful and powerful about this, even though it's like dudes in spandex who are running around punching aliens
with a good America ass. Yeah.
Right. Like that aspect of things is certainly there. And it's exciting to see these big charging scenes where, you know, clashing battles are unfolding and people are going to outer space and that kind of stuff. But there's something to the heart of the experience that that we know is there, right? But that it's oftentimes in the movies or even in the comics, it's always kind of like out in the distance that those elements of like talking about things that matter a little bit more,
right? But putting them face to face with them.
And here in this movie, I mean, this is one of my favorite movies of all time. I'll say that.
I love it. Okay,
I liked it a lot better than Infinity War.
Interesting.
I think it's a lot more cohesive of a film, like as a through line of like being a journey for a core group of characters.
Yeah.
But it works for me because they bring that stuff to the fore. They use all of the fuel that they've built up over these 20 plus films to say something that makes you go out of that theater at the end and be like, that's what it's about. Like, that's why I love this stuff, right? That actually said something to me that like sticks with me. And that like you say, like there's moments where you kind of like, you choke up in it and you're like, well, why am I choking up about like people coming through magic gates, right? Like why would that do that? And it's because there's something underneath there that they've earned over the course of all those films.
Yeah.
They spend so much time on character.
Yes.
Building up these characters that you care about.
That when those characters arrive and there's this, and they all are together and it speaks to sort of like things like community, right? And like what it means to work together and what it means to be willing to put your life on the line and strive for something bigger, right? Like those are sort of these like idealistic concepts that I think a lot of film struggles to make work because they always want to go right there. Like for instance, Justice League, right?
Don't say it.
Like I don't want to talk about it a lot, but I mean, my point is that like they don't put in the groundwork,
right?
So that the moment of them
you
all
saw what
being
others
together,
had done, and you took the next step.
It just doesn't totally land in the way this does.
Yes,
oh, go ahead, man.
Something like this isn't going to happen again, right?
No.
Like, I mean, 10 years in the making to this journey we've been on with these characters this whole time. And I agree with both of you, Dan and Miller, on time travel. I thought they did a great job of making it interesting and heartfelt and something you couldn't really predict. But at the same time, it could be very much an easy out for them for bringing characters back. This is the same thing that's happened in comics and drives comic readers bonkers. When you have, Earth 3462, a character coming back and becoming a part of your continuity of Earth 1, that's a storm cloud that's going to hang over the Marvel universe now, the cinematic universe. Like, well, this bad thing happened. Well, let's just go back in time.
Right.
I mean, why wouldn't they do that?
At the same time, those actors, are they coming back at this point? It feels like they kind of...
Well, for all the new ones, like
it's
Captain Marvel, Ant-Man, Doctor Strange.
It's not just the ones involved in this movie. It gives you an out to do anything ever.
Well, okay, but realistically, if you want to break it down here, we have the Pym particles, right? And maybe they'll have Pym die in, I don't know, it'll be that's how Spider-Man Homecoming
Pym or no
Part 2
Pym
opens.
Pym or no Pym, they can.
Pym or no Pym.
The door's open now, right?
Yes.
They don't need Pym particles anymore.
I
They
hear you.
can BS their way
I
there.
understand your frustration with it, Dan. I think at the same time, I'm in love with the structure of this movie, both this movie and Infinity War. And I think having the absurd time travel is worth it just for having a movie that, as Reeves mentioned, opens with them chopping Thanos' head off within like the first 20, 30 minutes. I think that's incredible. And it's exciting to think of like kids growing up loving comic book movies and to see Infinity War, which is a bizarre movie to have the villain be the hero of that entire film. And then this one, which is all over the place structurally, and it still works. Like these funky film structures, I think are really exhilarating.
It still works, but I think, again, it's not to its benefit. I think this movie's still good, but I think
it just feels like you're complaining about something that hasn't happened yet, though, is part of the thing. Where this movie is so fun.
Let's complain.
Awesome.
Oh, then let me the movie is fun, and I did enjoy it.
Great.
Okay. Let's
solved.
get that out of the way. I can still dislike elements of it. I think the time travel was just such a huge mess. Like, not outside of itself.
Right.
I mean, within the context of the movie, too. It's just like Nebula shooting Nebula, and all this is just like weird.
Well, she put the piece in her head, so
There
it's
you
cool.
go. There's also a line where like Scott Lang is talking about like, oh, time travel is crazy, and Scarlett Johansson is Black Widow's like, I get emails from a talking raccoon.
Yeah,
nothing
right,
is crazy.
yeah.
So it's almost
Yes,
like if you're getting hung up on the science of like time
I'm
travel
not getting
and how
hung with the
this works,
science.
or
I am not getting hung with the science. We are talking
It's just
about
like you're missing the
superheroes
point. This
with
is about
magical powers.
how
I understand
fun
that.
this movie is.
Yes. The one thing I'll say is just look at Thanos, his arc.
Yeah.
So like you said, like you think this is going to be a revenge film and then they kill him.
Awesome.
But then he learns of these things that are going on through time and realizes like, oh, eliminating half the population isn't the solution because you're going to get hung up on that and create conflict in that. It just all needs to go. So right there, you take this villain that was already like a serious threat and you just turn him into even more of someone like, okay, we got to stop him again.
Yes.
He has an awesome line. It's like, normally I'm not, I'm dispassionate about this, but the things I'm going to do to your planet.
I'm gonna enjoy it.
Yeah.
I would also throw out there that I don't think that the Marvel if there's one thing that the Marvel creative team has earned from me, it's a certain degree of trust that they know where they're going.
Yeah.
I don't think this is an exception. I think that they did expend a lot of narrative capital here to do this film and to do this as a kind of conclusive note, right? There's a period on the end. There's no post-credits thing, with the exception of the hammer hits that are kind of a callback to the first Iron Man film, right? But like, I think they know where they're going, and I think where they're going deals with exactly what Dan's talking about. I think that by solving this problem, by solving the Thanos problem, they have opened a much larger problem for themselves, like in the universe. I mean, the splintering of time is a thing that in the Marvel comics has a there's a very clear precedent for where they can go with that and characters that they can bring into the mix.
Is it the Eternals? Is that the idea?
No.
There's
Kang.
Right. Like there's, if you're talking about the world of big cosmic level baddies, right? I mean, sure, you
That
have
are purple.
They're purple. you have a lot of characters who are great villains, people like Green Goblin or Magneto or Doctor Doom, who generally speaking are, they're dudes.
You can put a bullet in their head.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you have people
Hometown
like Thanos,
villains.
right? Who are really cosmic level godlike threats. There's not a lot of those, right? One of them that you could be moving towards in subsequent phases of this thing is a guy who is very much concerned with the natural flow of time going the way it's supposed to.
Okay.
He has a plan for time. He is the master of time.
Chronica.
Not unlike that.
Mortal
actually,
Kombat
I
11.
mean, I think you could argue that like the Mortal Kombat guys probably were looking to a character like Kang.
Yeah.
All right. So it opens the door for a few different things for them, with the admittance that it is real messy. I completely agree with that. But it does let them, as they move forward into subsequent phases and TV shows and movies, they can play with the idea of alternate timelines now for a while, and also have narrative follow through on like that's a problem.
Right.
Like
That's fun.
what before was a pretty straight line has now like turned into a tree of different branches, and somebody's going to try to solve for that.
Yeah. Let's focus in on the Captain America problem. Because I saw this headline before I saw the movie, and I really wish I didn't, which was just like, is this a plot hole? Captain America's final scene? I'm like, oh, great. Now I can't get it out of my head. And then it wasn't until driving home that it was like, oh, that's right. I guess that is a problem because they've established that going back in time, it does not change the future
change
because
anything.
Back to the Future is BS, as they say, right? But then in this one instance, it isn't. Does anybody have an explanation for how that works?
What are
You could
people's
do
problems
anything.
with it?
So the problem as they is that they break their own rules, or they appear to break their own rules. That like Captain America, if he goes back and lives a life with Peggy, as it is implied pretty strongly that he does, he should never show back up in what we would call this sort of
the main
timeline.
Right.
He would be elsewhere. Right.
Oh, on a different reality.
On a different reality, because in this reality, everything unfolded as we've seen it over the course of these movies. Peggy went on, married some other guy. She was in her show, right?
Carter.
Like
Yeah.
Agent Carter.
Yeah, Agent Carter.
It had all that. All those things happened, and Captain America was not part of
Right.
that. So the only way that you can make it line up is by inserting things that are off screen that don't make sense. So you could say that at some point Captain America lives his life with Peggy
And he's
then
off screen the whole time.
and then comes back to this timeline via some other method,
Right.
and then shows up on the bench.
Well, except
Right.
according to their rules, just quick, it wasn't the person that splintered the timeline. It was the stones actually that splintered the timeline, according to the Sorcerer Supreme.
Right.
So it was only the removal of the stones that created those like different timelines,
Sure.
according to their fiction. So
Right.
if Steve returned those, then it's back to normal. The actual that breaks is actually Loki took off with one
Exactly.
of the stones. So that's where the separate reality is. So they
Yeah.
could come back to that at some point.
And that
Which-
could be the Loki show.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
and that's
they
what I
will.
think it probably is.
Oh, that's confusing. I can't believe they got Clint Eastwood to do that final Captain America scene. That was really impressive. Didn't he look like him? It was great.
that was really
really
good age makeup.
He should have been a little
And
older,
CG.
though. Little older.
I
Well,
actually was
he's
impressed.
Super Soldier though.
Oh, okay, so it's like, all right.
He ages slower.
Yeah.
Also, I love that just because, we're Game Informer. I love like, oh, this is basically Metal Gear Solid 4 ending, like where they left Solid Snake. I'm like basically so
Yeah.
old that you don't have to worry about it, but he can't really do anything.
Yeah.
The thing that hung me up about the ending with Steve Rogers actually was more of a character thing.
Yeah.
And it was like him and Bucky.
Sure.
And like for several movies, it's all about like Cap and Bucky and like, this is my best friend. I got to go get him.
Yeah.
And then he sort of like, disappears and it's all about like him and Sam, which are also friends, but it just feels like there's like, there was a lack of like a hug, at the end with like him and
Right.
and Bucky. But at the same time, the more I thought about it is like when he steps on the platform, Buck says like, "I'm gonna miss you," and there's that little thing where you're like, "Oh wait, maybe he
knows. That's interesting.
Also, Black Panther kind of outlines the future for Bucky in that film of the character he's going to become. What is
Yes.
it, the White Wolf?
Yeah.
So yeah, Sam is the successor for
Right.
Cap.
that's
I'm all
that's
about
another
that.
weird
I don't have a problem with that.
time conflict thing, because if you figure if Cap went back and he had the happy marriage, then he totally out of character, being selfish for him and not caring about any of the Bucky stuff for that whole timeline.
He doesn't go help. He doesn't
Right,
find
which
Winter
is-
Soldier. Right. There's lots of things about that
Boggling, yes.
Yeah.
like of all
Boggling,
the,
yes.
of all the things that they do, that's the furthest that I think the story goes towards value and sentimentality
Right.
over honoring like the characters'
Reality.
arcs to
Yeah.
some degree and what they would do. But that said, for 95% of the audience who are going to see that movie, that's a great moment.
There's also a talking raccoon. It's like it's like a little bit of like.
There
how-
is.
I love
There
that
is.
Cap's just like, I know it's going to play out a different way in a different timeline or a fracturing of the time. F it, I'm just going to do my thing and live happy.
I'm gonna dance for 60 years straight
Yes.
in the
this
same
house.
song. Yeah, but talk about like F yeah moments from the audience. Like that was, I don't know if you saw that guy in front of us, Reeves, but when Cap's like, "Hey, take the shield, Falcon," or whatever
Yeah.
poetic line he had, this guy in the front row just goes, "Yes!"
He put both his
And
arms
he
up.
just
Yeah.
held his hands up for so long. Like that was the
good.
thrill. It's like
I wonder if he had an argument with his friends about who was going to be the next Cap.
yeah, surely there's some money on the line because I can't
Oh.
imagine having emotions if not
Yeah.
that. Also, it's funny when we were walking out. I don't know if you heard this guy, Reeves, but I heard some guy behind us goes, they're talking about how much they enjoyed the movie and how many feel good moments there were, and he goes, it feels like I'm high, but like I'm not high right now. Like, you mean just happiness?
That's
Like,
awesome.
What are you talking about?
Why is my mouth going up?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, you want to talk about that moment that was a little jarring for you, Dan? About
Which one?
I assume we're talking towards like the big female empowerment shot. Was that the one?
What?
That you're hinting at earlier?
No.
Oh, okay.
You always talk about
But in
how you
terms of
hate
like
that, though.
building
I
up
was
and
like, I didn't care about
staging the
that scene at
movie
all.
just for like the F yeah moments. Like that was one of those where it's like.
Yeah, it was the cap
the cap-
moment.
cap
yeah.
I know, but I thought you were hinting towards another one. All right, never mind.
No.
But that's the one that stood out to me, right? Just that dumb moment of like, wait, everyone's just lining up on the battlefield, like all the women are in one spot. Shouldn't you be all fighting for your life? It's like, that's right. Okay, Talking Raccoon, I got it. Don't worry about it. And
exactly.
like the audience loved it.
It's
Yeah,
such a great shot.
unlike
Like,
time travel,
yeah.
I'm willing to like say whatever, cool. Even though Marvel doesn't need any help from anybody to do whatever she wants, right? Like,
Right.
but that's fine. I didn't have a problem with that at all.
But that's fine.
The
That's good.
framing in context of what's going on is, like you're saying, a little weird, but it is such an amazing shot.
You gotta
Having
do
all
it.
of them together.
Yeah.
I loved it.
I liked everything about the big battle scene.
Really?
What's not to like? Except for
Oh, the passing the baton was incredible.
if I want to make a quibble, okay, with the big battle, I thought it was all great. Everything played out wonderful. This is going to sound terrible, but I actually wanted one of the good guys or two to actually die.
100%.
I know everyone's like the stakes are already super high. We
think
already
a
had
couple of them did.
Tony's great sacrifice, but he did it himself. The enemy actually didn't kill anybody.
Right.
Ever.
I think part of the challenge there, just in terms of like structurally and why that's hard to do, is that when you have a major character like that, you then need to have follow, especially if you're going to have a different character get like a funeral and all that kind of stuff, then you need follow. So if you kill let's take a character they're not going to kill, like Black Panther, right? Because we know what that character's in another,
And they killed him last movie anyway.
But let's say that Black Panther
dead.
bites it in the film and Thanos smashes his head open, right? And he's dead. Then all of a sudden you've created an additional problem for yourself at the end of your movie of like, well, now we have to deal with the aftermath of that. Whereas I think by focusing on like, okay, everybody's kind of fine, but our biggest character bit the dust. So now we can have the most of the end of the movie, the denouement of the movie, be focused on
100%.
And I'm not downplaying that. That was obviously a huge moment.
Yeah.
I just feel like you look at Infinity War, Thanos actually kills a couple characters in that one, like Loki and Vision, and for all of his power and all of his might, which is greatly shown, like he's kicking some serious ass. No casualties. That final battle just felt anticlimactic. When
I hear you.
Everybody, like, they're just getting blown out. Like, just not.
And there's even the moment where Thanos, I think Captain America's lying on the ground and Thanos just punches him in the chest.
Yes.
Like, he's done. But nope, okay, gotta keep moving. I totally hear you. But it was like in the build up and you realize what's happening when they're just watching Thanos, like, what's he doing? He's just sitting there. And it's like, okay, hang on. It's Thor, Captain America, Iron Man. Like, this could be where all three of them going down. Like, the three most likely people to die. This is gonna be it. And no, not really.
And I'm not-
But it was an awesome fight.
It was
What I
great.
loved about that too is like you get through that awesome fight and then there's another fight after it. It's just like you think like this could be the end of the movie.
Right.
When Cap's going down, right?
I thought Ant-Man was dead when he's like looking at the birds.
Honestly, I thought that would have been.
really?
I actually thought he did too. When those missiles hit that plane, I'm like, there's no way he survived that. I was shocked. I was like, oh my God, they just killed him. And
Yeah.
of course, he's back the next minute, stomping on monsters.
I'm
He just
such a
shrunk
fan.
down.
In any movie, I'm
get
such
it.
a fan of just like ruthless villains, just immediately like, F you, you're dead.
Yeah.
And I love that Thanos just shows up to light it up, just blow this place to smithereens. It's always satisfying.
Which was super awesome. I thought that was a great moment.
Right.
But again, there were really no stakes from that. How
Okay.
did Hawkeye survive that?
All right, well,
I
let's-
get how Ant-Man can make the case, but how the hell did Hawkeye survive? He
They're
doesn't
just
have-
in the rubble or whatever. Okay, let's talk about stakes then. What about Black Widow?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was sad.
That's the thing is, so I was going to say is like they had Black Widow, she died, and it almost felt like the end of the movie didn't have like kind of what Miller was saying. Is like
Exactly.
they didn't have time to spend any time like reflecting on that.
There's
She
just
was
the scene
gone.
by the lake.
there
is
was-
the, is
yeah.
the most they can
So
spend
like
with her.
the more
bench
people
chuck.
you try to add to that, the less, the more it diverts from like Tony and
understand.
Captain America's endings.
How about just one though? Just one.
I guess-
to make the stakes of that battle happen, because
Man, those stakes felt so high to me.
It was just
felt
such
like so epic.
The good guys destroyed, just plowed through those guys. Like all of Thanos' little minions didn't do
Yes.
anything. Just
I hear you.
I mean,
I hear you.
one of the distinctions we're making here, I think, is that there's like, I think Ben and I don't want to speak for anybody else, but like, it seems like we're a little bit more on board with the idea that like, it's not a real world,
I still
right?
liked it. I want to make that very clear.
I guess
still
I
liked
know,
the battle.
but, like,
I feel like somebody should have.
I guess what I'm saying is just like there's different types of fans, right? I get that you liked it, and I think but I think part of it is that like different people come to the table with different like hopes of what they're looking to see.
So
and for you,
Endgame.
there's a little bit
There's
more
got to be
kind of like
some stakes for the heroes besides the noble sacrifice, which was excellent.
Yeah.
And I don't deny that. I was bawling my eyes out. Okay.
Really? For Black Widow? Really?
For Black Widow and for Tony.
Okay. Tony, what got me with Tony
Tony's,
specifically
man, everything about his
what
arc.
does she say?
Whatever they did with the sound effects after the Tony
3000.
thing, I was just like,
No,
just wiping my shirt, man.
The part that got me was Pepper Potts just saying like, we'll be okay.
Yeah.
Like that was,
Yeah, it
I
was
didn't
good.
expect
Great line.
that moment to just crack me like
It
an
was
egg.
good.
I loved that at first it was like Rhodey showed up and you're like, oh, that's like his first friend. And then Peter, who was also really close to him, and then Pepper. And you're just like, oh, it's like the three very important people in the series.
Yeah.
The part that got me though was later on when his kid is talking to John Favreau. He's like, hey,
Yeah.
what can I get you?
The burgers.
Oh,
I
man.
love,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love cheeseburgers.
And that's a throwback to
and just like,
it's like the first
Iron Man
I was
1.
like, oh my, that was probably the part that emotionally hit me the most.
Really?
Right.
I don't know why. It's like it seemed, yeah, there were a bunch of places for that, but that one in particular just
Hats
did it.
off to that actress, by the way, that 4-year-old, 5-year-old actress.
Yeah,
like, Morgan,
she's
that
really
was
great.
an amazing
The
performance.
cutest kid you could have got for that.
Yeah,
I mean-
she'll grow up to be a monster, but still, right now.
The second they went ahead 5 years, I was shocked. I was
Yeah.
like, whoa, this is going to be crazy.
Yeah.
And then you see Hulk. He's kind of your comic relief through this thing. At the
Hey,
beginning.
real quick, does that have a comic precedent? The
Yes.
idea of
Yeah.
him
Yes.
like fusing.
He's over the course of that character's comic life, he has moved back and forth on the realm of like, how much control do I have?
Okay.
And there's occasionally been times that he like reaches a point of balance.
Okay.
Where he can like talk as Banner, but he's strong like Hulk.
And buy a huge tuxedo for the funeral.
Yeah, seriously.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, what were we saying?
Where was I going? But
The 5 years jump.
5 years.
yeah, when they introduced Tony and having the kid, I was like, oh man, this is going to be brutal. Because you already knew
Yeah. Right.
what the plan was, right? With Pym and all that stuff. And for them to go to him as like, you need to undo this kind of stuff, it was like, well, this is going to be brutal. But their solution was brilliant.
Yes.
Like, just bring everybody back 5 years later.
Yeah.
Insert them into the timeline.
Although
It's a little messy if you think about
So, you know,
people that died in that
Right.
time.
well, also like when
So
Peter Parker was at
messy.
school, then I'm like, wait a minute. So like half
Yeah.
the
They all got
class,
back.
5 years or
Yeah.
older.
You have to
like-
presume that all the main characters got
Right.
dusted in Spider-Man.
All of his
for it to
closest
work.
friends.
Because
Right.
otherwise they'd be like if MJ didn't get dusted,
That'd be so funny.
then she's
That'd
in
be
college.
amazing, actually.
You have to do a lot of suspension of disbelief, which is fine. I'm totally cool with that.
Right.
And like the fact that one vial of Pym particles apparently is enough to take Thanos' entire ship.
Yeah.
Whereas in reality, everybody needed a wris bracelet and the Pym particles.
Well, they shrunk down ships before.
Yeah,
So,
shrunk down the
as
thing.
you'll see in my envelope, I thought that Far From Home was going to be a sequence that was set in the past, like wedged between,
Right.
the events of Endgame, where I thought they were going to intersect in that
Yeah.
and have cameos in that. But how they ended up saying like, okay, all of his friends got dusted too. They're just in the same grade again.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Well,
It's
it's
kind of
still,
cheesy.
still could take place in the past.
I really
Maybe.
like imagining in the writers' room for this movie them actually having a checklist that they're going through of all of the previous movies. That's what's just structurally what is most fascinating to me.
Yes.
Is how much they reward that sense of engagement, right? If you like take a movie like Age of Ultron, which a lot of people didn't like that one as much as some of the other ones, right?
Dan laughed when you said it.
Well, yeah, I don't like that one.
Yeah, okay.
It's still a good movie.
I agree. I like that movie a lot too. But there's very specific things that they do in this movie that make this movie better because you've seen that movie.
Right.
It's not that they're not leaving people out. If you didn't go see Age of Ultron, then the whole line about like Thor saying I knew it,
Yeah.
it's fine. You're like, oh yeah, he knew that Captain America could take it.
I mean, that
but
scene
if
still
you
has lots of
remember
weight. Yeah.
the scene where Cap is the one guy who can almost move it, then you're like, that's awesome.
It's so incredible.
And the fact that the entire movie manages to work on both of those levels, that almost every line, it's not like you don't get Thor interacting with his mom as being special and beautiful because she's dead.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen Dark World.
Right.
But if you have seen Dark World and you know that process of grief that he faced there, it's that much richer. And so it's this like more than any other film I've ever seen or any TV property, it's saying to its fans like, this was worth it.
Yes,
Like,
absolutely.
You put in the time and we're going to make that worth it to you.
Yep.
It reminds me of Brian Michael Bendis when he was at Marvel, planting seeds 6 years out in comics and not telling anyone.
Yeah.
Like just little character interactions and stuff like that led up to these epic things.
Yeah.
Like that's exactly what Marvel did here.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
it totally pays off.
It feels like every movie was referenced in some way.
I think
Like,
it
oh,
is.
definitely.
Really crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. There's just stuff like, like we said, on your left earlier, or like I could do this all day. Like just some of those lines, you're like, oh, I love that line. And they use it and it doesn't feel like they're just like cheaply jumping in on it. Like it feels like it's like you're saying, it's a reward.
Yeah. Well, also
I mean,
just
there's even extremely bizarre like jokes that tie, like the Lebowski joke where Jeff Bridges is Obadiah Stallone.
Oh, of course, sure.
Oh, I didn't
even
make
think about that.
connection.
That's,
Yeah,
I
interesting.
bet that's a weird accident, but yeah,
It
absolutely.
could have been, but I don't
Yeah.
know.
They have
It
so many
seems to
actors
me-
at some point
It
they have
seems
to
to me that
overlap,
there's
but
not a
that's-
whole. They don't make accidents when you're. But
That
you're
explains
right.
why in Iron Man 1 he said in the middle of that fight, "You look like the guy from Big Lebowski."
Yeah, that line. They planted that seed.
and
Yeah.
then winked at the camera.
Yeah,
Or like the elevator scene.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes,
oh,
where
yeah.
it's
Like,
like-
the callback to like, there's going to be this awesome fight, and then there isn't.
But yeah,
The
that's
other
the amazing
scene
part. It's like,
was
yeah,
great.
it's like
Was
the
great.
elevator, but then also it's in the Avengers timeline. And I love just that nerdy aspect of like, we get to go back to what was my favorite Marvel movie, Avengers 1, and then like see just kind of the bureaucratic aftermath.
Yeah.
Like that is such a fun idea. Just kind of the low key,
Right.
no pun intended, moments along that.
And the scene with Thor's like, I don't know if this is going to work. Oh, I didn't know if that was going to work.
The Hail Hydra thing was like
It's so
that
fun.
was the second biggest moment, and I think the theater I saw it in.
Oh, wow.
Oh, really?
Past the hammer, yeah.
It was very fun. But like, seeing Crossbones in the elevator again, right? It just reminds you of like, just production wise, that they got so many actors back that
yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
leak. Like Natalie Portman's back.
Yeah.
All
Did
his-
they actually get her back, or was that
I
a
don't-
scene
I think a
from
lot of those
Dark
were new
World?
shots.
It was,
Apparently
for sure?
they filmed new sequences with her.
Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, they had her on set for a day.
Right.
I mean, they only used like 4 seconds, so.
But it's just insane. Even just like, the reveal of like, I forget the guy's name, but Thor Ragnarok, the Waika Tatiti.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
He's in
Krog
it.
or whatever.
Yep.
Like the fact that he's back, just all these characters coming back. The fact that, that Tessa Thompson was like, had such a big part in that movie. I don't think anybody could have seen that coming. That's crazy.
There's also like a lot of ties to like comic stuff. Like if you're a comic fan, there's like the scene with Hulk holding up all the like rubble, or like the scene with Thor and the broken shield. Like there's just like cool scenes where like I remember that from a comic.
Oh, okay.
Like that's awesome.
The one thing, Marvel needs to chill out on tying in things in the current continuity of comics with this movie. Because like as Guardians of the Galaxy, that's something that's already going
Yeah.
on. Like
Oh,
they
is
have a
it?
comic
Yeah.
series. So when that happened, I was like,
I'm
Or
100% on
Cap
board
and
for
Hail
that,
Hydra,
though.
it's like, like
Right.
you're doing the same jokes.
Yeah.
I mean, they are definitely, at this point, I think you could say the kings of synergizing their properties.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're leaning
Stop it,
into
though.
the modern
Yeah.
memes for sure, like the captain's ass.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say you brought up Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's like I was kind of mentioning it last night, but how much does James Gunn? How much do you think he knew about this before 3? And I know he's back, but he's been out of the loop for a while. So
I
it's
think-
like, does this screw up his plans?
No, I think it's going to be called As Guardians of the Galaxy.
No.
And you have that one moment where Star-Lord is looking at the computer and it's searching for Gamora. I think that is going to be, I
the
don't want to
search
say
for
it's
Gamora?
the search for Spock, but I do think it's
it'll be
going to
really
be.
close to
That's
that,
pretty
yeah.
much what it's going to be.
I think that's what it's going to be. And I think we're going to get introduced to a certain Mr. Kang. And I think we're going to get introduced to a certain Mr. Adam Warlock.
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
that's-
Adam Warlock is almost
there.
unless they just don't follow through on what they've introduced, which
Yeah.
they've never done in Marvel movies. You have to have Adam Warlock, and again that sort of there's lots of things that tie Adam Warlock together with Kang.
Yeah,
like I feel like it's a pretty sure paved path for where they can go from here.
The Gamora thing I did not see coming. It's like when she was coming through the time travel thing, it's like, oh, of course, such a convenient way of getting her back.
Yeah.
But like, I didn't see that coming. I think that's brilliant. And also, I love that
Convenient
it's
but
not
clever. I feel like.
Yes, exactly.
It didn't feel cheap in a way.
No, and I especially love like her just being like, F you. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
who you are, dude. I'm going to kick you in the nuts instead of hoping to love you. So like, if it is this big quest for Gamora, then it's just that fun idea of like, even if you find her, dude, like she doesn't like you.
It was him. It was him or a tree.
Well,
Hey.
Good line.
with Kang in play, I think you could start having the Black Widows come back. You could start having the.
I swear
Yeah,
to God,
I'm
if-
telling you, man. This is what Dan's saying. Like,
That I know, and that for me sucks.
once you start playing with time, and you have different characters that get introduced that manipulate and control this,
Sure.
it's going to get messy.
I agree it could get messy, but at the same time, it felt like there was that moment where Hulk is like, I tried to bring her back.
I love that.
And like I couldn't. I tried. And like it's almost like they're saying like, yeah, there's still some lasting consequences. We're going to commit to that. And I think they could. I think they could hold to that.
They could, but I do think they are setting the stage for Gamora and Star-Lord coming back. That story arc, I mean, it's just hanging in the air.
Yeah. I mean, one of Tony's final lines is like, again, like things that seem throwaway but really aren't. One of his last lines that he speaks before we get into the big final battles, he's talking about like time travel and like when you mess with time, it messes back or something like that.
Oh, right.
I don't think that's throwaway at all. I think it's literally the template for the ways that this movie and what they solved for here are going to create lots more problems for them.
So is the idea that Tony snapped Gamora away, or just that all that happened and Gamora was like, see ya, and just got on a ship and went away?
I think Gamora is still there.
Yeah.
That's why she showed up on the life thing. I don't think she was snapped. I don't know how exactly the mechanics of the gauntlet work when you snap away all of Thanos and all of his evil minions and everything that he did. But
because Nebula's still around too.
Right. The fact that Nebula's still there lends credence to the fact that Gamora would still be there.
Well, I think she's still there for sure. I'm just confused about how exactly that worked.
They may not have answered that satisfactorily.
The snapping thing, I thought that was just a fun quirk that Thanos did, like an Infinity Gauntlet. It's like a fun way to demonstrate that. But the fact that they make it seem like that's the way you wish for the Dragon Balls at this point, it's like everything has to be snapped. It's like, what?
That's just a visual cue for the audience. I mean, you could he did it in at the collector's place where he just kind of looks at you and turns you into bubbles or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But did the Avengers not know that?
No, it's just a visual cue for the audience.
Yeah.
To just make you
to
know.
let you know they did the thing.
Yeah.
What I was confused about what Captain Marvel was doing. Was she just like holding his hands and separating his fingers so he
It
couldn't?
looked like she was about to break them off.
That's why he had to pull it. That's why he had to rip out a stone to hit
I
her.
love that.
Yeah.
I love that idea.
That was a cool.
And the Iron Man glove having the ejection kind of thing.
Yes.
I love that
Brilliant.
idea. Yeah, it's absolutely. It's one of those things of like, he was getting ready to snap and I was like, I genuinely have no idea what's going to happen. This could work again.
I think a lot of
seriously
people
don't know.
in my theater were actually really confused about how he got the gems and not realizing that was the nanotech from the...
Right. So just like, in my mind, just the nanotech had just like siphoned over to his, right? Or whatever, because he still kind of controls it.
Right. Yeah, exactly right.
Okay. All right.
Man, it is such a heady movie and intelligently so. Like the Nebula thing with them sharing the same network.
Yeah.
I love that. Like
So
that
nerdy.
is so genius.
I said this
and syncing that up.
with Infinity War, but it's like probably the most impressive juggling act I've ever seen to like keep that many characters, that many story threads, that many like elements of a movie.
Yeah.
And it all works.
And everybody,
It does.
it feels like every major character had at least one moment, if not one important piece to play. You know?
Yes, and
like
beyond-
it doesn't get kicked off until like without Scott Lang or
Right.
without like Black Widow's sacrifice or without Tony or without Hulk. None of that.
Or
stuff
without
works.
that magical rat.
or without the magical rat, man.
Because without the rat, none of it happens.
There's also a
I
talking
think
raccoon
Rat's
in the
coming
movie.
back. Yeah. Also, I love that supercut of every time they make fun of Rocket for being a raccoon because it's like every film. That's fine. But beyond this film's juggling act, I mean, it's amazing to just appreciate the marketing of Marvel overall. Specifically with Endgame, you could even zoom in and say how little they gave away, which I think is absolutely incredible. I loved how blind I was for the entire movie structure. But then zooming out, thinking about every Marvel movie along the way to make this movie pay off. Not only do they have to be good, but they have to get people in the theaters to care. And it's one of those things of like the crowd cheering when like Captain Marvel flies in and takes out Thanos' ship and stuff. It's like, that movie just came out. Like if they would have botched the marketing or that movie was just like, a 4 out of 10, it wouldn't have had that impact. And it's just that amazing,
It was 21 fun movies. Like I liked every one of these movies.
Absolutely.
There's lower levels like Iron Man 2 and 3 and Thor Dark World, but the characters are still great in those. Right?
They're all-
like you care about what's going on, even though the central plot isn't great.
Real quick, Iron Man 3. I like Iron Man 3. There was a lone guy at the funeral at
That's
the end.
the
That was
kid.
the
Yeah,
kid,
that's the
right?
kid, yeah.
Okay. I love that they call that out.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
I mean, yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Like, time travel issues and other minor quibbles notwithstanding, it is incredible to see this entire saga play out over the course of X films. It is an incredible accomplishment. There's zero doubt about that. Like, it's just amazing how they tied everything up.
And then we have 5? They said the next 5 years will be the next arc. The end of Phase 3 is these next 5 movies.
I
or
thought they said that just Spider-Man ended it.
Yeah, and then we're into
And
Phase
then,
4.
then it starts to Phase 4.
I thought they
But
said they
I
still had big
misunderstood.
plans for Phase 3.
No, I think Spider-Man will end it.
Yeah,
that would
kind of
make
Phase
sense.
4 was meant to be. I mean, we're gonna get a couple of intros. We get Shang-Chi,
Yep.
which I'm really stoked
Doctor
about.
Strange is back.
Yeah,
There's another Black Panther. There's another Guardians.
Black Widow.
I'm sure they'll make another Spider-Man after this next
those
one.
5 movies.
And
we
then
know
there's
of.
the TV shows that are going to really help to
I don't
make
know.
everybody and their dog buy a subscription to Disney Plus.
And there's what? There's a Black Widow movie coming, right?
Yeah.
A prequel.
I guess.
Well, they haven't said what it is.
Well, they haven't said that, but given what we well, you're right. It could,
It could be anything. I mean, there's precedent in the comics for it. I mean, it could be an alternate timeline thing,
Yes, it
right?
could.
And do a traditional kind of Black Widow spy movie.
Earth
it could
3.
also be like they could do like a woman buddy movie with Gamora and Black Widow because there's precedent for like there's a world inside the Soul Stone. And so you could say that they're there and they're trying to get out.
Oh my God.
There were
That's a thing.
also other Black Widows.
By the way,
There are. But I think they've said that she's starring.
It
Yeah.
definitely is Scarlet.
Yeah, I think so.
I think
Those
it's going to be
characters-
Morgan, actually. Yeah.
those characters are a little too trusting of Red Skull.
Yeah,
Like, it's like,
I mean,
shouldn't
in
they be
both
like,
movies, yeah.
Hold on, this guy's a Nazi.
Yeah. Well, they don't know that.
Yeah.
How would they not know
He's
that?
just deaf
Just
with a
some
red
cre-
skull.
just some
He's
creepy
pretty
guy.
He was like Hitler.
Yeah. Yeah. that's-
Hawkeye really going to bed like, no, trust me, this dude told
He knows what he's
this
talking
dude
about.
Okay.
said."
he knows what he's
This guy's
talking
He
about.
saying-
also
One of
has
us
some
has
other
to
really
die.
interesting ideas.
Just some
that part's a
creepy
little
dude
weird.
saying, "A soul
Like-
for a soul, give me one."
Like I'd be like,
Give me one.
let's throw that Nazi off the cliff and see if that works.
I thought that when,
I
like,
love you, Push.
seriously, when they're looking at each other like, we know what we have to do, right? I thought it was going to be like this big FEI moment where they both like kick Red Skull
really?
off the cliff. I really did.
That would've been
I
fun.
really did. Because they're
funny.
tricksters. That's all they do.
That's what they should have done is spent enough time to fall in love
Fall in
with
love
him,
with him, yeah, sure.
and then throw him off.
Oh my God.
They could do that. You take a time rift, they go back in time, they fall in love with Red Skull, they clean it up.
How much? It is interesting. Like, they must have known. The writers must have been like, I think more people like Black Widow. That'll be a bigger gut punch, and that's why they went with
That
it, right?
sequence was so
Well,
good. Back and forth.
it's-
Back and
They were,
forth.
I think they were going
It's
with
a
a
great
lot of
sequence.
mirroring with the Gamora death, like shot for shot, you know.
There's also
Well, yeah,
more like narrative weight to the idea of Hawkeye, who at that point in the story is much more flawed, right? And but he also has more to live for. And so in terms of like just like looking at it as a narrative, if Black Widow dies, who's really, you know, she's led the event, like the remains of the Avengers for these last 5 years,
Right. It's kind of like the new Nick Fury.
Although,
And it also pays back what we learned from the first movie about her, that like Hawkeye saved her after she was terrible,
Yeah,
and
right.
now she's going to give him a chance. Like there's a sort of balance to the whole thing that I really like.
They really
One-
didn't want to leave Hawkeye's family
yeah,
just
No.
chilling without him at
There's-
the end there.
there's that one little wrinkle of her finding out who her parents are,
Yeah.
which is
Oh,
something
yeah.
they could explore.
That line is like, I didn't know my dad's name.
Yeah, that's
Like, that was a
awesome.
good
so
line.
that's something, you know, like, okay, that could be something that's coming after if she comes back. Oh,
You're
God.
right. Or even a prequel, they'll maybe hint at that or something.
I
or
don't
like,
know.
how
I
you
think
would,
that
but-
version needs to come back. I think Miller's right that they're going to get out somehow.
God, that would suck.
Wouldn't it?
But
This
again,
is-
let's
this
enjoy
is-
this
this is
for.
comics.
I know, right,
This is 100% comics.
Right,
We'll not talk about what could happen, just what did happen.
Reiner, since this is Game Informer after all, the 5 years later, which by the way, I really loved, just like
so
the
good.
slow reveal of 5. He was on the screen for so long, it's like years. I was like, yeah, baby. Oh, just to zoom out again. Like, I love just how much this movie goes for. Like, it's not scared to shake things up. And this is, you know, it's a tangent, but some of the audience might understand it. It's the complete opposite of the problem with Dragon Ball Super, which is just like fun stuff, but like we are locked in. Don't change anything with these characters. I love that. It's just like 5 years later, F it. Post-apocalyptic world.
Yeah.
Everything's different. Get used to it, man.
Scott
Like,
Lang's daughter is just a teenager now. Like, that's kind of crazy.
That moment, man, that got me too. It's like, damn.
yeah.
Every little character interaction they did so well.
Yeah, absolutely. But as you were talking about this morning, the weird thing that Fortnite is still in the exact same state.
Hey, it's
it was
cool.
in.
There's not as many game developers.
Well,
Like,
honestly, half of Epic would have disappeared, so they wouldn't have
Yeah.
been able to continue development of Fortnite.
Well, they didn't. It's they're
That's
using
exactly
the
what
same
happened.
character
Yeah.
skins, same map.
Because they only had half the crew, they're still repairing the
and
team.
so the PlayStation 5
They
never
kept
came
the
out.
servers
Like,
online.
That's right.
The servers are online.
it's such a fun idea of like, yeah, what is the impact on game development if half of everybody goes
I think that was
away?
the point of the movie, is that Fortnite is inevitable. All right? Yeah,
like Thanos.
yeah, exactly right.
Oh, we need to go back and fix it. We need to kill Brendan Green. No, nobody should kill
It's
Brendan
just
Green.
Fortnite
It's
sitting there on a thing. I am inevitable.
I know we've already talked a lot, but like, did Thor's story arc like rub anybody slightly off?
Yes.
It felt a little
Very
too
slightly.
goofy at
great.
times.
I did not like it. And I love Thor. I love Thor Ragnarok for being goofy. But that was one comedic thing where it's like, okay, kind of funny to see him fat. And then it's like, oh, this entire movie he's not changing. Even after his mom, which I thought was going to be his turn, and he's still like the jokey alcoholic.
I really liked it at first. I do agree with you that they overplayed it. Like by the end of the movie, he's a Norse god. He can do whatever he wants. He can shapeshift. He can shapeshift those that waistline.
He can braid his beard.
I think that was pretty funny. Like, why is that the thing that he's braided his beard now? That shows that he's awesome again.
They maybe a little too jokey with him, but I like that he just took his head off, Thanos' head off.
Oh, at the beginning,
and
straight
he
up
snapped after that. Like that guy was a wreck.
Yeah,
after all of that.
I love it. Just like he kind of felt bad, just felt weird. And it seems like everyone else was kind of like, what the hell? Like they could have gotten more stuff from him.
And coupled with another callback line, like I went for the head. Like it's just like sort of chilling a little bit.
Yeah. But that's the amazing thing is they call back to that movie that they wrote the same time as the last one. So they didn't know that line was going to have as big of an impact as it did. You know what I mean? Like that's the crazy thing is just how confident they were to make these two movies back to back.
Yeah.
But I did like him being like just down on his, like this is the rest of his life is just drinking it away.
Yeah.
And for a Norse god to drink away his life, it's in excess.
Well, I was totally fine with that story arc. It just felt a little bit too like campy and silly.
It's a little
I think
campy.
They ran with it too long, I think.
Right.
Yes.
They kept that joke going for the whole movie almost.
And I bet they could have tested it and maybe tweaked some things, but the fact they wouldn't screen this to public audiences, so they couldn't really get a good test of the comedy. I think Infinity War was much funnier overall. But
he's a character who, if you look at the actual arcs, he has maybe lost the most at that point, right? They touch on that in Infinity War, in the conversation on
his
the
world
on the ship, right?
One of my favorite scenes in the movie. Yeah,
his whole family is gone. He was given responsibility for this group of people who he effectively totally failed, right? And then he is the guy everybody's counting on at the end to stop Thanos, and he doesn't, and half the universe pays the price.
And New Asgard sucks.
Yeah,
that's pretty chill. That's pretty chill.
Pretty relaxing place.
That's in the comics now
there.
too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What do you guys think was the best joke in the movie?
Hail Hydra.
Really?
The hammer switch.
That was mine. Yeah,
That was
I
really
love that.
good.
Oh,
Take the little one.
You get the little one. Yeah,
that was really good. God, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I
I'm
loved.
still laughing about that.
I loved just the dumb joke that it was so casual. And even talking to Reeves a little bit after the movies, I loved the weird structure of it, where so much of that movie after that climax of Thor taking out Thanos was just kind of like flat and wasn't really actiony, but it was still great. But like I love the scene like in the diner where they're just arguing about whether Ant-Man should get a photo with the kids, and Ant-Man's like, they're saying no. They're literally saying no right now. Like, don't take a photo.
I think that whole bit is really funny. I like Scott's Back to the Future joke. I think is really funny.
Also, him just trying to eat that taco. It's like what a weird scene. It's like one of the biggest movies of all time.
Just like a physical humor joke.
It's just
And
Buster
everything-
Keaton joke. Yeah.
Everything with the two Hulks in New York when he's taking the stairs, and he's like so many stairs. I like that. But then, and I like how that like screwed up their plans. By the way.
Yeah.
But then the other one, like, why don't you break some stuff, smash some stuff, and he's just like
half-heartedly smashing things. Yeah, that's funny. That's good.
I love the let's see. I also love just the simple. I think it was Rocket who says like, "Hey, raise your hand if you've never been in space before." Like I love just like those weird little lore acknowledgements. Like, it's amazing.
I loved
Just
Rhodey was in the back, like, what do you mean? Like,
Also, just in that scene too, I love. There's just a weird shot where when they start flying through space, then it's just like a close up of Captain America's eye as like all the lights are going by his eyes. Like, what an awesome weird shot.
And that was that reminds me of something. I thought it was really interesting how Rocket, who is usually the comic relief, was barely any of the comic relief in this one, since they had so many other sources to play upon. Like he had very few jokes that I can remember, whereas he is usually the sword in Guardians anyway.
Well, I mean, because in part, like he's lost everybody as well, right? Not unlike like Thor, he's a character who is really taking the brunt of things at that point in the story.
One of my favorite beats, you already touched on a little bit, Reiner, but I love that idea of Tony Stark in the beginning just still carrying forward all these old grudges. Like it'd be so easy to like wipe away all of what happened with Civil War and all of Age of Ultron with like, hey, we have a bigger threat here. And the fact that they don't do it and it still feels justified. Like he's still pissed at Steve Rogers.
They do pass over it pretty quick.
But I love that he still argues like, hey, this is exactly what I was trying to prevent. Like I'm still pissed at you. Plus, don't snap away my daughter, you piece of shit. Like I need her now.
Well, just like that scene at the beginning, even though they brought him back really quick, that scene at the beginning where he's yelling at everybody and passes out, and he's like, I told you we needed a suit of armor around the world. Like I saw this. Like, that was like really good, emotional, and I thought Robert Downey Jr. did a really good job with that.
Yeah, for sure.
I think I rewatched Ultron last week. Like a lot of people, was rewatching some of the old ones.
I don't think that gets us enough credit.
I don't think so either, especially because I think of all of the 21 movies or so, I think Age of Ultron is the one that does the most foreshadowing, right? Like it
says Endgame, right?
Yeah, he says Endgame. This and he there's all those scenes, those scenes that played really weird at the time that were Scarlet Witch's like kind of like messing with reality and like, is this a dream or is this the future? And it turns out they were pretty much the future because you see Thor dealing with all of the Asgardians dying.
Oh, really?
And you see Iron Man watching all of the Avengers die, but he's still there. And there's this like beautiful symmetry to that the one path, right? When Strange holds up his finger and it's like the one path, he's in a way, it's a callback to that scene. That it's like the one path that isn't that is when you're not the one left, when you die, right?
Yeah.
It's really cool.
I love that. But at the same time, it's like Strange is like, well, I can't tell you. That'll ruin it. And then he's like,
But then he basically tells
Hey, go now. Use your left hand about 2 degrees.
grab it.
I thought that was a cool moment, though.
It was a
like,
cool moment.
Yeah,
I loved it. I just
Again,
loved it.
that's a visual cue for the audience to connect the dots.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
oh, this is it.
How great is the Tilda Swinton?
So good.
Like the
Yeah, that was
Sorcerer
super
Supreme
unusual,
up on the
right?
roof.
Like,
I like that too. Is like you're about 5 years too early. He's like,
Yeah.
She still knows so much.
Yeah, exactly. The idea that she's basically so many steps ahead.
Yep.
Like we
It's
don't
crazy.
we don't even have to establish with her that she knows all this stuff. She knows who this person is, and she knows that Strange is eventually going to be who he's going to be. And yet there's this one piece. She only needs that one piece of info that Strange at some point like gave the stone away for her to put the whole puzzle together.
Yeah.
And be like, all right, here you go.
I'm
Also,
excited.
hands it over.
Yeah.
I'm excited for the next
great.
Doctor Strange movie. I want to see if they like play with like he's like, okay, I basically directed us to the path where we're alive, but I had to sacrifice Tony Stark. Like,
Yeah.
how much is that going to weigh on him? a little
Oh,
bit?
yeah. Well, I mean, he doesn't really
He was
care
ready-
too
he
much
was
about Tony Stark
Well,
calling a
they
douchebag. and stuff.
I don't know, I
foreshadowed
guess.
that pretty heavily, because I watched Infinity War right after.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
He
Okay.
apologizes.
He basically
to
says,
Tony.
He says, Tony, you're gonna get sacrificed.
Yeah.
Not in so many words, but he basically says it.
He doesn't explicitly say that, but I love that in retrospect you can go back and watch that scene and know the knowledge that Strange has.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that the looks that he's given, I mean, you can kind of have guessed it at that point if you were paying close attention, but like there's this beauty to like he knows what he's setting up, and so when he's like apologizing to Tony, it doesn't have anything to do with like having given the stone away.
Right.
It's that like
I thought it was weird in Infinity War when he said, but it's going to look awesome when all those people come through the portals, Tony. He's like,
But you're gonna think it's going to be a great
Trust
moment.
me, dude. The audience is going to love it.
the Valkyrie's going to
I
kick
love,
a lot of
I
ass.
love
Yeah.
seeing all of the magic acolytes all show up.
Using like
with
the
their
shield
shields.
when the barrage is
yeah.
coming
So
down.
cool.
That's the best. Also, I love just like little gimmicks like throwing Mjolnir and then Spider-Man like latching onto it and like riding it.
Yeah.
I
That
never
was
thought
cool.
of that. That's
They
incredible.
could have showed up on time. Maybe
yeah,
like
why didn't
10
it take
minutes
them extra?
earlier.
Yeah.
Right. That's
So they didn't
They were
destroy
traveling
that
across
building.
space. I don't know.
Also, I love that Scarlet Witch got to do some damage.
Definitely.
At least
Oh,
like
yeah.
rip off his armor. It's like I was expecting a little bit more, but still cool that you see her
I mean,
have
she
a
totally
tangible
destroyed
effect.
him.
Yeah.
I mean, she was the
What
reason.
more did you want her to do?
She's the reason he had to rain fire.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And killed probably, I don't know, at least some soldiers died in that
Yeah, there's
thing.
a
It's
lot
not
of
enough for-
soldiers. Dude.
I love his whole-
some random guy number 5 and random guy number 7 died. Very dramatic moment.
There's that scene where Cap threw his shield and then the hammer and it did the thing. Like
That was great.
really good.
Really good
The
movie,
cap
guys.
fight.
Guys,
Oh man,
there's so many good scenes.
Yeah.
Really fun.
I think we covered absolutely everything.
Yeah. All right.
Except for our predictions.
Let's do
Uh-oh.
Who wants to read Kyle's predictions?
I'll do it.
Okay. Who wants to read Shay's?
it. Oh god,
This
those
is
are
gonna
be
take
terrible.
We should
Forever,
not read
man.
our own, I think.
Yeah, don't read your own. I'll read Reiner's.
I'll read yours, Hanson.
All right,
Can I
this is
just
fair.
open this and start going?
Oh, hang on. Reeves, that'll be Dan
Oh my
Tack.
god.
All right, Reeves,
And then
let's see what you got here.
let's see, Jeff Cork. Do you want to be Jeff Cork as well, Miller? Okay, great. First one, Reiner will read mine.
Yeah, I'll start with you.
Okay, great.
This was probably sealed this morning.
Yeah.
Also, I wish I would have
keeper of the
rewatched
envelopes.
Infinity War before I wrote this because I remember thinking like, oh, I have nothing to say. I don't even know.
Oh, weird.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Dear Santa.
You got decent handwriting.
Thank you.
I even took a photo of my envelope.
That's good. See, Reiner's keeping it pure.
Yeah. Honesty. Avengers go fight Thanos.
Jeez,
Comma.
went out on a limb there.
It ends without a death. Thanos doesn't want to fight them.
You don't nobody else gets to explain their stuff. Let him read
I'm not
it.
explaining, but
Yeah.
hey,
Let him
bad.
read it. There's no explanation.
for first
You got
thing,
one part
that's not
right.
bad.
You got
No
one part
explanation.
right.
You
The
know-
other part not so right.
Yeah.
They need to go back in time and relive scenes from Marvel history to keep the Infinity Stones out of Thanos' hands. Correct.
Thank you.
Ding, ding, ding.
Thank you.
There's a greater threat revealed, more important and dangerous than Thanos. Nope.
I mean, if you think about it,
Time is the enemy of all.
family. I don't know.
Time travel hurts the original crew. I don't know what that means.
I was just shooting for a
that
good
means
thing.
Iron Man dies. He lives on as an AI voice.
Really?
He's Alexa.
Yeah. So I thought he was gonna be the new Friday.
That's good.
Thor dies.
Damn it.
He kind of does actually. Remember, there's a scene at the end where he talks to his daughter.
He is an AI voice.
Oh, come
that
on.
was a
That's a
recording.
will. All right. It's not a...
Captain
I'm
America.
gonna write my AI voice.
I
pretty
just
soon.
called my wife and left an AI message for her.
Captain America hands over the title over. Yep.
Okay.
So the shield.
Thank you.
Thanos lives like Frieza in the Broly film.
Like Frieza in the Broly film. That was wrong
a
about
lot
that.
of Dragon Ball.
Yeah, everything is
references.
Dragon
My brain is 70% Dragon Ball.
everybody snap comes back to life. Gamora was in the Soul Stone or whatever.
All right, I'm happy with the start of
Written
that.
this morning.
All right.
Pretty good.
All right, thank you. I'll just do yours, Reiner.
Yeah, mine's not that good.
Okay, let's
But we
see.
know yours was pure, Reiner. It wasn't edited.
100%.
So.
And Hanson wrote on here.
Yeah, Hanson's
Wrong
got like
prediction.
different kinds of pen, different like...
At age 17, I murdered a man.
Oh,
Oh, that's the wrong one.
Edit that out.
Wrong envelope.
Okay. This movie is all about time travel, resetting what was done and making sure Thanos doesn't get his hands on all of the stones. They can't stop him from getting them all since he controls time, space, etc. Thanos ultimately falls to the hands of his daughter Nebula. This is revenge for Gamora and is Shakespeare as S.
actually,
Shakespeare is Shakespeare.
word. Yeah.
Nebula is actually the most helpful thing for Thanos. That's interesting. The Avengers that die in this final conflict are Iron Man, Ronan, Vision, that's weird, and Thor.
Not bad.
Loki and most of the characters that turned to dust will come back to life.
Yeah.
No Loki, but all right.
Loki didn't dust.
Well, he's in the film.
He's in the film. Oh, that's interesting.
He is out on the loose.
Yep.
He is.
In another timeline, he's definitely alive. Yep. Because
All of them are.
We got a conditional statement. If I'm right about time travel, then the Avengers will travel back to the time of Spider-Man Far From Home. Yes, that sequel that everyone thought would take place after Endgame is actually something that takes place before it, even though it's set after its events.
See, I thought that would be so clever.
That would've been cool.
They teased
Would
that,
have.
but it would have been
Yeah.
something set in the past. But that's not the case.
This movie is also a redemption story for the Hulk, who was the one character who fell apart in Infinity War. He will turn into an intelligent version of
Oh,
Hulk.
wow. Good
Bruce can
job.
control him. All right, pretty much there. The movie will end with a Fantastic Four tease.
Nope.
I wish. Someday we're gonna get a good Fantastic
Although
Four. Someday.
we don't know what that hammering is.
It was a callback to Iron Man.
I
right?
think it is too.
Hammering.
pretty clearly. At the end,
think-
there's no ending credit scene, but
But
there's
what does that mean?
The sound
To
of
have that at the
hammering?
end?
Oh, we
It's a
did.
Just
tribute.
poetic?
It's a
I think
tribute
it's
to
just
Tony.
poetic.
Okay.
Yes.
I
We
think
didn't even
it's
stick
just
around
like
for
meant
it.
to be like, hey, we're putting a period on this. No post credits.
Yeah. You have Kyle's?
I do.
Miller? Can
Can
you do
you
your
do
best
that?
Kyle impersonation?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Oh my God.
You're welcome. Are you doing yours or am I doing
No,
this
you do
stuff?
yours.
Oh, no.
What is that? Somebody wrote a.
Go ahead.
Somebody
Go
wrote
ahead,
an essay.
Miller. Go ahead, Miller.
Kyle Hilliard. It's honestly kind of a boring prediction. Great.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
But I
Kyle.
think Ant-Man's shrinking tech opens the door to time travel in some fantastical way that is explained with science words. That allows the survivors to go back in time to learn more about Thanos and get ahead of his plan in some way.
All right.
It won't be as simple as going back in time and killing young Thanos. I think it
I
will
like to make that
involve...
young baby Hitler
They
joke.
do.
Yeah.
I think it will involve maybe collecting the Avengers who passed away, retaking on Thanos, winning with their new knowledge, and then there will be some difficult timeline manipulation to rearrange everything.
Pretty close. Pretty close.
Yes. I think Captain America and Tony Stark don't make it to the end credits, sacrificing themselves in some heroic way.
50%.
I think Hulk makes it and gets his Hulk abilities back. I think Nebula makes it and is crucial to Thanos' defeat. I think Gamora doesn't come back. I think all the other Guardians are safe. I think the time travel allows for a quick Yondu cameo played for a joke.
Now that would have been cool.
Oh, that's not inconceivable.
I think Captain Marvel makes it. Whoa, Ebony Maw is back. Surprise! I think Thor makes it. I think Loki is super dead. I don't think Black Panther or any of his friends are in danger. Ant-Man's fine, as are his friends, except for Dr. Hank Pym. He dies. I love that this whole thing, by the way, is structured around I think, and then except for Hank Pym, he dies.
That's not my thing.
Also Nick Fury dies.
And what was it?
Doctor Strange lives.
Maw? Why is he
Hawkeye's dead. The end.
Wow,
that's
beautiful.
pretty good.
That's beautiful.
Good. Well done,
that
Kyle.
was pretty close.
Ooh, I want to see somebody animate that version of the movie. That's really Tack. What do you got?
I got Reeves.
Okay,
Let's do it.
Oh, boy,
All right,
here we are.
Reeves, here we
You ready?
go.
What is it?
Oh, boy.
Everybody so far correct on
Wait, what
time
is
travel. Yes.
This is your letter.
What would it say up front?
These are different. This is a different pen.
great.
We're not going to count that.
okay.
Oh, okay, I guess. Because it's written in pen, it's not official.
Avengers predictions by Ben Reeves. Most of what we've seen in the trailers at this point is in the first 40 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
Hulk and Thor will finally do it.
Okay.
I don't know what that means, but I'm pretty sure it didn't happen.
Well, they got it done.
No, you can grab
You
the
could do
shirt.
that. You could do that
Captain
fan
Marvel will be funnier. Interesting predictions.
Sort of.
Incorrect.
We time travel to the most iconic moments in the series. First Iron Man movie, Battle for Manhattan, etc.
That's pretty
Battle for
good.
Manhattan.
Yeah.
fiction. Very good.
Stanley cameo. He's God.
I thought maybe that would be a
Not
good
quite.
cameo,
Not
but
quite.
I'm God.
Spider-Man, Black Panther, and everyone who died in the last movie get resurrected for the final fight.
Yeah.
Nope.
At some point, Cap will be the last man standing and say something like, "As long as someone stands against you."
well, it's half right.
I think
He's the
that's
last
pretty
guy
accurate.
standing.
He had a moment.
does get beat down, and then like right before all the good guys show back up,
Yeah.
he stands back up.
Yeah.
That's pretty good, Ben.
Cap, Thor, Iron Man, and the original Avengers sacrificed themselves to reset the universe. It's alluded that these characters could also be reborn too, but they will be different.
Yeah.
Post credits has some
guess.
kind of reference to mutants and or the Baxter Institute. That would have been cool. We all whack out crying. You got that
Hey.
one right.
Yeah,
there
that's
we
true.
go.
That's true. That's a good point. Reeves?
I have Shay.
Oh, great.
In-game predictions.
This is gonna be good.
We
Here
should
we
open
go.
this ahead of
This is
time.
going to be the hottest one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who
The
do you have
hottest.
left, Miller?
I've got Jeff Cork.
Oh.
Is not Doctor Strange, MD.
By the way, Jeff Cork, official.
That's really good.
Official, just for full transparency here. He sealed that envelope this morning after he saw the
Oh,
but he
what?
showed
No,
me.
we can't
he
even
showed,
read
But
it.
he showed me the properties of the Word doc when he wrote it, and it was April 9th.
Okay.
So,
All right.
I'm going to submit mine right
But
now. I got them all
that could be
right.
the saved one. He could print one that was not saved.
This is written in pen, so we
So
can't
it's
accept
locked.
it. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's also just a picture of hair.
what?
It's a picture of hair.
Oh, that's actually pretty
Okay.
short.
So yeah, Brian, it is short. It says, while the other Avengers distract Thanos, Ant-Man enters the quantum realm to sneak up on him.
Is that really what it says?
Is that it? Is that the whole prediction?
That's
it.
all it says.
Great job, Brian.
Did we see
That's
this?
exactly
That
what
can't
I
be his
thought
real
it would be.
prediction. Oh my god.
real close.
Exactly
Real
what I thought
close.
it would
That's
be.
really,
That's
really
amazing.
close.
What the hell?
Miller, you want to go next with the
Jeff
great
Cork
Jeff Cork?
is not Doctor Strange, MD. It says. Okay.
So he says. I don't know if I believe it.
He was the best of us.
By the way, it's interesting how like Captain Marvel's like, you think Earth is the only place having problems? Like, see, that's such a convenient way to get rid of her for a while.
Supreme intelligence.
I didn't-
is
and
gonna
I
be a
brought that
big,
up.
Big thing moving forward.
Jeff Cork says Bruce Banner will say to himself, "Good to have you back, big guy," when he inevitably hulks out. Everyone is way too excited to see Hawkeye again. Ant-Man makes a joke about how excited everyone is to see Hawkeye again. Captain Marvel and Captain America share their experiences about being relics of the past and their shared first names. Leo really liked that one.
The only time we got Leo this whole thing.
Finally, I like that he closes it with this. Thanos kills Pepper Potts.
The only body count. You know who I've come
Only
for.
death of the whole movie.
All right, this is Jeff Margiafavas. All I know is he said I needed to read it.
You
Okay.
need to.
This is
Yeah.
like involved, isn't it?
Get ready. Sit
a
down for
novel.
story time. Here we go. Iron Man will have to fly all the way back to Earth from planet Titan. He flies so fast that the physical strain makes him fart the whole way.
Oh god. All right.
But the suit will recognize the rising methane levels and vent the gas into space. When he gets back to Earth, he finds Nebula is already there. And she asks why he didn't use the portal that Doctor Strange left for them before he died. She also tells him that he smells funny, but Stark says it's the sulfur on his suit from re-entering the atmosphere while nervously tugging on the collar of his Iron Man suit. After another massive fight, Thanos will be left standing over the defeated remaining Avengers, and it will seem like all hope is lost. But wait. It turns out it was all an elaborate ruse, which Doctor Strange foresaw is the only way to win. Iron Man will have to kick off the real plan with some snarky quip. There will be a lengthy fistfight sequence between Thanos and Hulk, where they each take turns punching each other in the face and slowly turning back to stare at the other person. Eventually, Hulk will swing and Thanos will grab his hand, and they will both struggle to overpower one another. The two will stare each other down for it feels like an eternity. Then Hulk will lean in and kiss Thanos.
Oh, I knew it was coming.
Hey,
I knew it was coming.
That was mine. That was my prediction.
Thor will see this as an ingenious ploy by his ally to distract Thanos and move in to deliver the killing blow. As Thor raises Stormbreaker above his head, however, Hulk waves him off, yelling, "Hulk need this!"
Ooh, wow.
and he reveals he has a massive boner.
Wow. Does that just happen? Is this allowed?
I knew it.
Get this man to a writer's room.
After the extended makeout sequence, the surviving Avengers will try to kill Thanos for real, but doing so will require a sacrifice. Captain America and Iron Man will both volunteer, then do some frivolous action to make the decision, like flipping a coin or drawing straws or whatever. Captain America will cheat and sacrifice himself, and Iron Man will make some bittersweet quip about how Cap is always stealing the spotlight or that he's showing off for Captain Marvel. Thor will chop off Thanos' gauntlet hand with a Stormbreaker. That happens exactly.
Yeah.
And it'll be totally epic. Rocket will ruin the moment by saying something like, "What's wrong, buddy? Need a hand?" Thanos will stomp him flat and everyone else will be cool with it. Captain America will put the gauntlet on. He will wish all the dead Avengers back into existence. However, recognizing the gauntlet is far too powerful, he will also wish it out of existence. And because he's wearing it, he too will disappear. Cap will shout, "Tell Penny I love her," as he fades away, which Tony will be very weirded out by.
Penny?
Penny?
He said that in the Dreams video.
Yeah, did he write that before or after that?
I think he wrote it before.
I think he wrote that
He wrote
first.
it way before.
Wow.
Yeah. He just doesn't know her name. All the other Avengers will show back up and be very confused about where they've been. After a few humorous greetings and pats on the back, the group will realize that Mantis did not return. They will all look at each other in silence for a few moments. Then Tony Stark will say, "So, shawarma?" And they will all laugh. Other life-death predictions. Gamora will stay dead. Loki will survive. His death in Infinity War is a trick. It will repeatedly seem like Hawkeye's going to die, but he will survive and go back to his farm. Dr. Banner will survive, but defeating Thanos will permanently turn him back into a human form. He will still have Hulk's huge boner, though. Jumper, give up, everybody. Wow.
It's interesting how close he was.
Yeah, that was shockingly close.
Very close.
That's beautiful. Yeah, like before I saw this movie, some friends asked me, like, a scale of 1 to 10, how much are you looking forward to this movie? And I was like, 10 out of 10. Like, it's not possible to look forward to a movie more. And I don't think, I think comedically there are a couple weak spots. Other than that, it's like, it's impossible to be more entertained in a movie theater than seeing that movie.
This and the last Star Wars, right? Like, they're both 10-10. Like, I got to see what happens.
And we're going to see what happens when we write those predictions for
let's do that.
At least I can get in on that one.
Emperor comes back.
Damn it, you already took the good one. Back to the Future joke. Okay, thank you so much for watching. Let's see other fun Avengers-themed things. Reeves and Leo and some folks, they made a video where they recreated the entirety of Endgame in Dreams for Media Molecule. And the ending, if you have not watched that, the last 2 minutes, or maybe a minute, it's the funniest effing thing.
That's, I would say all Leo, that last little thing.
That's great. We also,
I'll just say that.
Yeah, we also simulated Endgame in Smash Brothers, and it went exactly as the movie played out. So you can check out those two videos if you want. Otherwise, check out GameInformer.com or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks, everybody. We love you, 3000.
Aw, tears.